Happy Valentine's month, everybody. I'm the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to share with you some of my favorite Valentine's Day episodes from TV shows or even movies. Not everything is all lovey-dovey. Sometimes Valentine's Days deal with heartache and everything. So, some episodes will be romantic and lovey-dovey, while others will be very sad and heart-wrenching and stuff. But love is love. It doesn't always come with smiles and giggles and glee. So I'm here today to talk to you about Harley Quinn, the problematic Valentine special. At least that's what I think it's called. I really enjoyed this. This was really hilarious, really funny, very well written, and I preferred it over the second and third season. I don't hate the second and third season. I just kind of I'm irritated with the third, with how so much of the stuff they did. But I like the second, but I love the first season. That first season is amazing. And so that's the only one I own on DVD. And so this was a really good special, and all the jokes always landed. And to tell you the truth, I kind of forgot some of the stuff that happened in the third. So I'm like, okay, they're going to have to keep with continuity. So Bruce should be in jail, which he is. And I forgot what happens to everybody else. I literally forgot what happens to everybody else. Now, there is no Bat family in this. They kept them out. And I'm glad, because there was a little bit too much of Bat family in the third season. I could have sworn at the end of the third season that Harley Quinn wanted to be a superhero now. So there's no indication of that in this special. And also because there's no Bat family, there's no Bat girl. And so I remember what was her name? Poison Ivy tried to take over the world in the third season. But I guess her and Harley made up. Like I said, it's been a while since I watched that and stuff. And so at first I wasn't really knowing what kind of direction they were going to go in, because they first had Superman and Lois do kind of a documentary type thing. And I was like, what is this? So basically what they do is that between certain scenes, they have a Valentine's Day special and a documentary type comedy type style, where you sit on the couch and you just start talking to a camera and you don't know who's behind that camera. And there's a bunch of superheroes and a couple of supervillains and stuff. And so those are always fun to see. They're hilarious and stuff, especially who gets with who. The Aquaman and Mirror thing was really funny. And I was really shocked and surprised to see Killer Croc and Enchantress together, And so basically the main story is Harley and Ivy's very first Valentine they're gonna spend together. And so Harley wants to make this extra special because she loves Poison Ivy so much. And but the thing I've noticed about Harley is she tries too hard to be perfect for her relationships. Probably because the Joker was so toxic and everything, and she could never please him because, he always just messing with her, or sometimes he just flat out hates her and stuff. So she always tries to do her best, and it really comes off she's trying way, way, way too hard, just like she did in the third season. And so, what's her name? Ivy doesn't want to do anything for Valentine's Day because she doesn't like the mass genocide of roses and stuff. And so that reminds me of an episode of Batman the animated series, and those two was hanging out. And Ivy made her some beets and some kind of vegetables. I'm thinking to myself, wait, hold up. You're all about plants and you just cooked up some vegetables. Doesn't that go against your code? And so I've never understood that part in Batman the animated series. But anyways, Kaylee Cuoco did, she did an amazing job in this special as Harley. Her voice went so high pitched that I've never heard it like that before. And it was just a fun to hear, which is something you'll never hear in the Margot Robbie live action version. And so basically they have a dinner, and Ivy is in love with these vegan meatballs and stuff. And then all of a sudden, some hoods comes in, like some mobs type dudes with some old school, like 1920s, like, Tommy guns and stuff. And so they steal the recipe for the meatballs, which cause Ivy and Harley to run out and stop them. I assume they were being superhero, but no, it's just because Ivy loves that recipe and she wants it back. So they stop the bad guys, and then they talking about, oh, they're just middleman. Here's their boss. He comes in a helicopter. She kills one dude, and so it turns out this is all like an elaborate like thing that Harley came up with. And I'm just like, that is so off the wall and bonkers. That is so Harley Quinn. But two dudes end up dying. Which is so Harley Quinn. And so, like, Ivy tells her this is the best, like, Valentine's Day thing I've ever had and stuff like that. And so Harley just doesn't believe her. So she tricks Wonder Woman to go on the Themyscira. I don't know how Wonder Woman didn't know it was her, because how many Amazons have pale white, like paint looking skin, like clown skin, So when she flies off, Harley steals like the lasso of truth. I swear all the heroes in this show are like stupid in the head. So she uses the lasso on Ivy, and it turns out this is the third best Valentine she ever had. So she's really pissed and she's mad. So she wants to give her the best sex she ever gave her. So she goes to Etrigan and everything, and he has like a magic shop. So he gives her something that's gonna make it like her so great in bed, be like the best orgasm ever. So she uses it on her, and this is the part that really gets me. I don't want to see animation like sex. I don't want to see animation nudity, brief nudity, whatever. I don't need to see that. Now, thank God everything was covered up, but they were still boinking and everything like that. I don't need that. I don't need to get off like that on a cartoon. But thankfully, no real nudity was shown except for naked man booty. It's always naked man booty in the modern day. And so, like, but the spell worked too well that when Ivory came and everything, it just went throughout the entire city. Everybody is now infected by this, and everybody is clickety clacking it. I do not need to see cartoon people getting it on. I do not need to see cartoon bugs getting it on. And I most definitely do not need to see cartoon animals like dogs and squirrels getting it on. I don't need to see that. Nobody needs to see that. It was funny, but I don't need to see that. And so, like, while they're dealing with that, because pretty much like that's the end of them for now. But then it goes on to a couple other stories. Harley's gang, I don't know where they're all at, but we see Clayface. And Clayface, he is getting catfished by somebody. He's all in love. He's going to meet his guy. Turns out to be Boomerang. And he just wanted to rob him. So he cuts him in half. And it's a weird story about Clayface falling in love with his lower half, his butt. And it's funny seeing the butt cheeks flap open and talk to him and have teeth and everything. But they're like in love with each other now because of the spell. So he's all like, no, maybe we can be together but never touch and all this other stuff. So it's a weird plot with like them and everything. And I just don't get it. I just don't get that. He's in love with his lower self. Like, what the world? It's funny, but I just don't get it. And then there's Bane, one of my favorite characters in this show. He is sad because he can never get a date. Nobody never swipes for him, nothing like that. And he's jealous that, the Riddler's finna go off with his dude. And so he's lonely. So he's walking around and he meets a dominatrix. And this leads to a very funny scene where she mistakes him for another dominatrix. And they have to like pleasure this one dude. And it just makes for the most awkward looking stuff. It's so funny. Bane is always well written in this show. In a way, she's into Bane and she wants to hook up with him that night. But he saw that she was making fun of the dude who had like a small like shillelagh and everything. So he's like, crap, because he has a tiny one. I guess because he's so big and muscular, everything looks small on him. Plus, he takes them on the Venom steroid, so it makes probably, it even smaller. So he goes to Etrigan, and he gets a potion that makes this thing huge. Well, because he's a typical guy, he doesn't really pay attention to the instructions and he uses it. And if you use it while being high, it backfires. So he grows about like 100 feet tall and he has a super huge shillelagh. But his clothes rip off and he's completely butt naked. And this is where we see the naked man booty. But sadly, he is affected by Harley's potion and he's so super horny, he just wants to bang everything. So we see him stick it to like a bunch of buildings and bang the crap out of them to where they just like crumble and fall. And yes, he uploaded in those buildings. Not only is there people in there who are getting cream pied and stuff like that, but now they're falling in the rubble and probably dying. And this was a joke that was wrong timing. I mean, they had no idea what was going to happen in Turkey and Syria, but now when I saw that, I'm just like, that's what I'm thinking about now. You're like, but they had no idea that was going to happen. It was made in advance, you know what I'm saying? But I still would have cut that scene. So he's going around just banging buildings. And so, like, Ivory and them had to figure out how to, like, shrink them down to size. They try to use Clayface and everything and to like talk to him and get really big. I forget what happens after that, but I think it doesn't work. But then they're able to turn him off. So when he gets turned off, he shrinks now. So that's a good thing, but he's still somewhat big. And so, like, the dominatrix lady comes over and she lets him know that, she still likes him and blah, blah, blah. And he's happy because he finally gets somebody. So they get to walk off. He's still completely butt naked and he's about 20 feet tall now. And so, yeah. But then, Harley wants to know what was Ivy's favorite, like, Valentine's of them all. And it's a really touching story. Basically, it's when Poison Ivy was in Arkham and she gave up hope on life and everything. And she just didn't care, thought everybody hated her. And then in comes Dr. Quinzel, Harley Quinn herself, and cheers her up with like chocolate milk and stuff. And that was the best Valentine she ever had, which is touching and sweet, and it makes their relationship a whole lot better. However, I still have problems with how their relationship started, because in the first season there is no relationship whatsoever, no hints, no nothing. And that's the way the writers and creators intended it to, until there was backlash, because of course they're an item in the comics. So in the second season they put them in a relationship and it just came out of complete nowhere. And I remember just being really sad for Kite Man and everything. Yeah, he has somebody now, but I really wanted him and Ivory to get together because I like that story of him being a dork and her being super hot and her being into him and stuff like that. And so, like, I've always felt the second season was just like rushed and forced and everything just to put them in a relationship, and it really felt that way. It reminded me of Cam and Mitchell from Modern Family. In the first season they never kissed, then because of the backlash of it they started making them kiss a lot in the second season, but then after that they rarely ever kiss. It would be like once in a blue moon once again if they were to ever kiss. And so, like, that's how I feel like the second season was. So that little flashback would have been nice to put in the first season to have some context as of them falling in love in the second season, because there was no relationship between them whatsoever in the first season, and it always felt awkward the moment they were like madly in love with each other in like the second and stuff. But yeah, I really did enjoy this special. It was really cool. It's the first special they ever had. I have no idea when the fourth season is coming out, but it's about like 40 something minutes. So it's not like, it's about like an hour like show, you know what I'm saying? Now, wasn't that romantic or depressing, depending on what kind of video I just talked about? Okay, well, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. And bye.